When I got my Bambu Lab P2S, it really reignited my interest and my enthusiasm for 3D printing. It's something I had gotten into many years ago and then kind of fell out of, and then rediscovering the whole new world of 3D printing and where things are in terms of printer capabilities, and just everything has leveled up so much in recent years. It's like starting from scratch all over again, and it has just been so much fun. And then adding the H2C to my setup was an unexpected treat that really, between these two printers, I'm the limiting factor 1000%, because anything that needs to be done in terms of 3D printing, these can handle. So if they're not being used or something's not being done, I'm the bottleneck here, no other excuses. I've never had very strong 3D design skills, and ever since I first got into 3D printing back in 2016, I've basically just stuck with Tinkercad because it works great, it's not intimidating, it's all browser-based, it's free, bunch of good reasons. I really love Tinkercad. I'm kind of feeling though that it might be time to graduate from Tinkercad, and I was thinkering of talking to you before tinkering, because there are a lot of options and I don't really know where to go, especially as someone who doesn't really have a math or an engineering background. Yeah, Tinkercad's kind of the main one that I've used, and I like the simplicity of it, but it also gets so confusing and frustrating sometimes when you just have a simple idea that you want to do and it feels like you're kind of fighting with it to make that happen. So what I need your help with is essentially figuring out what program is worth spending the time to learn before I dive too far into something and realize it was the wrong choice for me. And I think a lot of people have a lot more experience than I do in this regard. So maybe Tinkercad is the best choice for me and that's what I should stay with. If so, please let me know. I have a feeling though that if I want to make my own stuff, especially more practical type prints and things that fit together and parts and that kind of stuff, it's probably a good idea to move on to something else. So I've heard of a few other options, Fusion being the most common, maybe the most popular or the most professional that I think I've heard of. And that's kind of the direction I'm leaning, because I learned about parametric design, which seems to solve the problem that I've been having with Tinkercad. And that is, if you make a design of a bunch of different parts in Tinkercad and you change one thing, you then have to kind of go like change. It's very hard to have one change propagate throughout your design. From what I understand, parametric design kind of handles that. Like things scale and adjust and adapt, and you can kind of put like global constraints on stuff. So that way it seems like it's an easier way to make refinements to a design rather than kind of the brute force method I've been using in Tinkercad all these years. So that's kind of what I'm leaning towards. There is a personal version of Fusion that is free. You can do like 10 projects at a time, which seems fine to me. And I don't really know what, if any, limitations there are, if there's a catch. The paid price is quite expensive, so free would be great. The other one I was looking at was Plasticity, and it just seemed like a lot of people were recommending that, and that's not free, but I think it's a one-time license, like $150-ish, maybe $200. That seems fair for a lifetime license of something. But then of course there are other options as well. There's things like Blender, which I've tinkered with in the past because for like animation purposes, and I am terrible at it. And I really, really appreciate Blender because it's free and it's amazing, and I've seen all the incredible stuff people can do with it. But I find it so confusing. So I don't know if that's the best thing for me to learn. I don't know. So those are kind of the main ones I'm looking at. I feel like there's probably a ton of blind spots. So what I really need from you, if you're willing to help me out, is to tell me what direction is probably the best to go in and makes the most sense based on, what you may or may not know about me. I'm a hobbyist printer. I have an English Lit degree, so math skills, never a strong suit. I missed the day in the 3rd grade that they introduced fractions. I was absent that day, and I just never caught up after that. But that's also one of the things I really love about 3D printing is it's something that actually, it's the first time in my life when I discover it that I felt a little bit of like that STEM, mathematic, engineering kind of thing being accessible, because it's so practical. It's like, as much as I say I'm not good at math, geometry was always my favorite subject, my favorite type of math, and it was the one that I actually got a good grade in high school, because I think because it was so visual and it just kind of clicked and made sense in my head in a way that kind of worked. And I think 3D printing is sort of similar because it's such a practical application of designs and numbers and measurements and all that stuff. It feels much more attainable than the more abstract stuff of like the advanced maths that I did not do well in school. So I don't even know if that's relevant. Maybe that's the totally wrong way to look at it, but essentially I'm familiar with Tinkercad, by no means an expert, but that's what I have the most experience with, and I like it, but I feel like I'm kind of fighting with it sometimes. Fusion is what I'm leaning towards learning, but I'm worried that I might be, I might have a blind spot, or maybe what I don't want to do is spend hundreds of hours learning something, kind of get invested into a platform and then realize it was the wrong platform. I want to make sure that if I jump into learning a new thing, it's kind of the right choice to stick with. And then plasticity seemed like a good option. I've heard people talk about, things that you can even do on like an iPad with an Apple Pencil and all kinds of other different open source or paid or whatever. Let me know what you think and why, because I'd really love to work on making more of my own designs and doing things that are more complex than what I've ever been able to do in the past. And if you can help me with that, I would really, really appreciate it.